Oh boy, I'm sure this one's gonna be a popular one, but let's just get into it. So let's just get this out of the way first. Yes, some of the material used to train these AI models might have been acquired through less than legal means. But that's not really what this video is about. This video is about the art that these AI models actually produce, the end result, not the training data or how they got it, but whether or not the art itself is plagiarized and stolen. Because that's something I see people claim over and over again. They say that AI art is plagiarism, but it's really not. And there's no actual way to back those claims up either. And yet people keep saying it. And that's probably because they don't understand how the process works. And frankly, I don't think they want to understand it. You see, these AI companies scrape the internet for video, text, images, music, you name it, and used all that data they acquired, legally or not, to train these models to produce video, images, text, music, you name it. And I can see how people might get upset by that, since the people who made the original content never consented to this, and now someone's profiting from it. However, they never consented to human beings using this material as training data either, or profiting from it. Why? Because no one thinks of it as training data when applied to human beings. It's only really called training data when applied to machine learning. However, people, human beings, have been using all this stuff as training data since the beginning of time. That's how human beings learn to make art too. They absorb existing art, analyze it, practice, and then use the knowledge they gained to produce original art. A human being raised in a vacuum with no culture and no art could not draw a stick figure, couldn't write a coherent sentence, and couldn't produce music. The art we produce today is 100% dependent on the art of previous generations. There would be no contemporary art without thousands of years of slow and steady iteration and progress. A caveman could not produce a Picasso, even if given the tools. An ancient Egyptian could not paint a Rembrandt. Why? Because the techniques required had not been developed yet. However, you could take a caveman, bring him back into modern times, raise him in modern society, and teach him to paint something akin to a Picasso. Why? Because those techniques exist now, and you can learn from the existing art, and from the modern techniques used in this existing art. But that doesn't mean you're plagiarizing or stealing when you learn from the people who came before you, and used their techniques and methods to make your own art. The same thing applies to machine learning and AI models. They absorb all the existing art they've been given, and then they use what they learned to make new original art. Now, a lot of people seem to think that they copy and paste bits and pieces of existing art, and then use that to make new art, like collages, like some sort of elaborate scrapbook. And if that's how you think it works, then I understand why you might be upset about it. Because then these AIs would literally be using other people's copyrighted works to create their art. But that's not what's going on at all. When you prompt an AI to draw an image of a chair, it doesn't copy and paste an existing image of a chair onto an existing background. It also doesn't take bits and pieces of many existing pictures of chairs to make some sort of Frankenstein amalgamation. No, what it does is it creates a new image of a chair, one that has never existed before. How does it do that? It looks at millions of images of chairs and learns what constitutes a chair. What makes a chair and not a table or a couch or an apple? Then it uses this knowledge and produces a brand new image based on that. This is basically exactly what human beings do as well. A toddler can't draw a chair for many different reasons. An adult who hasn't drawn very much can probably draw something resembling a chair, but still nothing particularly impressive. However, ask an artist who's spent years drawing chairs to draw you a chair, and he'll probably blow you away with the best looking drawing of a chair you've ever seen. Why? Well, it's not only because he spent years drawing chairs, but because he spent years looking at chairs. Many, many countless chairs. He studied them in detail, and therefore he knows exactly what a chair is supposed to look like. If you ask someone to learn how to draw a chair, but the person has never seen a chair before, he can't do it. Or if you just give him one chair to use as a reference point, he might get pretty good at drawing that one chair. But how do you get good at drawing many different chairs? Any chair imaginable? You need a broad set of training data. The bigger the data set, the more varied your drawings will be. And the deeper your understanding of what makes a chair becomes. And this is exactly what's going on with these AI models. They use an enormous dataset to learn to understand what makes specific things that specific thing. And then they use that knowledge to create their own version of that thing when prompted. And this is simply not plagiarism or theft, any more than a human being doing the same exact thing is plagiarism or theft. The only difference is that these machines do it with frightening speed and efficiency, which makes it somehow seem different when it's actually not. Yeah, but these big bad companies are making a huge profit off of this, right? Surely that must be wrong. Yeah, but so can you. You can pirate an entire library of books. Read them, analyze them, study them, and then write your own work and get paid for it. And nobody's gonna call your work plagiarism. They might not approve of how you obtained those books, but they wouldn't call your original work plagiarism. You can also look up high-res images of any famous painting ever made, probably free and legally, and study them and practice, and make your own art and sell it and profit from it. That's not plagiarism either. That's called learning from and building upon existing knowledge. And that's basically what these AI models are doing. They're learning from what came before, and using that gained knowledge to produce new original art that didn't exist before. And by no definition that I'm aware of can that in any way be called plagiarism. Now, you can get into the weeds here and start making the argument that these machines lack actual creativity, and therefore they aren't able to make anything actually new and unique, and therefore it's still somehow plagiarism and theft. And that's fine. But that's beyond the scope of this video, and there is even a sort of philosophical argument that human beings can't really even do that either. We too can simply make a new thing that is actually just the combination of two or more pre-existing things, which is sort of fascinating, but again, way beyond the scope of this video. Because what I wanted to address here is the common misconception that AI art is somehow stolen, and that the artists who made the original art that the AI was trained on were somehow wronged and plagiarized and deserve compensation, which I don't think is correct. After all, I don't owe any artist any money, even though I sure as hell couldn't make my own art without the thousands if not millions of people who came before me and developed all the techniques I use. So why should a company who uses this art as training data for their AI be treated any differently? Because they're not individuals, they make more money, their computer models are way faster and more efficient than human beings? It just doesn't add up. People use training data just like machines, and without it, no one would be able to write a novel, or compose a symphony, or draw anything more complex than a stick figure, if that. And you don't have to like what these companies are doing, or what AI is going to do to the human workforce and human artists. But that still doesn't make AI art plagiarism or theft, which I'm sure is exactly what everyone wants to hear. And I'm sure this video will be well received and praised to high heaven, because that's how this works, right? I'm also pretty sure every single one of you will drop a like and a friendly and cordial comment below, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. But yeah, I think that's about it for today, and see you next time.